There we go. Start my video. Hey.
Perfect. Hey, what's going on, man?
Hey, Rick. Good to see you, brother.
You too, my friend. Thank you for being here.
My pleasure.
All right. So I think we're right on it. Let's get started. So I thought I'd take just a minute to just welcome everybody to an amazing opportunity to spend time with my friend Hal. And I thought it'd be appropriate to also just take a minute to one, hope everyone had a great Memorial Day, but also take just a few seconds to honor those that committed in their lives to what we have and what we sometimes take for granted. Hopefully not. We live in the best country in the world and in a country that is worth fighting for. So maybe just take a few seconds just to honor those that pay the ultimate price. All right. So it's a beautiful day and full of opportunity. And I tell you how I got so much inspiration reading your latest book in Miracle Morning years ago. But let me start by just saying you've written and co-written numerous versions of the Miracle Morning. It's been translated into 27 languages, 2,000 5-star reviews on Amazon. That was probably a few years ago. It's probably more than that now. Sold 1 million plus copies, 500,000 practicing from your teachings. At one point you died for 6 minutes and at 20, and then you almost yet again faced peril in 2016, only to prevail again, beating cancer. Can't wait to hear a little bit about both of those experiences and how they shaped you. Your new book, The Miracle Equation, is amazing. I'm about 2/3 of the way through. I ordered it as fast as I could earlier in the week and been knocking it down. What a great book. I love that your life goal is to elevate the consciousness of humanity one person at a time. And what a beautiful sentiment and thought. And without further ado, maybe we just jump in and you start from the beginning. What was it like growing up, or a little bit of the early backstory that led to being who you are today?
Yeah. Thank you, Rick, for having me, first of all. And thanks for that question, because I don't get to talk about the backstory that often. Growing up, I was a really mediocre kid, if you will, just an average kid. When I say mediocre, I mean that I wasn't an achiever. We all know those people that were good at everything they did from a very early age, right? Like I have a good buddy of mine, and he was a great athlete, straight A student, popular, all of the things, and I really I was not. I always kind of was. They diagnosed with ADHD, and I didn't get good grades. I wasn't an athlete, wasn't very popular, and but I had great parents, great support. I was very blessed with that. I was always kind of a class clown, and my claim to fame as a youngster at 15, I had a radio show. So I hosted my own radio show when I was 15 years old. That was kind of cool, and that was the path I was headed down. And at 19, I started a career in sales. And I got hired selling Cutco cutlery, which probably, many realtors give Cutco as closing gifts, I know. But I started selling Cutco at 19, and that was when I really found my tapped into my potential, you could say. And it was largely thanks to a mentor. The manager that hired me was just a really great leader, really believed in me. But I think there's the first lesson for everybody here is that we can decide at any given moment who we're going to be, and that determines what we create in our lives, the results that we create. And when I was in my second day of this 3-day Cutco sales training, I asked myself, what if I were to try to break the all-time company record for the first 10 days and sell more than anyone ever has? And I had no reference point that I could do that, but I decided to commit at a level I had never committed before. And 10 days later, I had sold $15,000 of Cutco and broken the all-time company record. And that kind of set the stage for it's true for me as it is for anybody watching or listening to this, right? That we all have unlimited potential. Like anything another human being has done is evidence of what's possible for you. I think the biggest mistake we make is when we separate ourselves from others. Like, they're better than me. They're smarter than me. They've been doing this longer. They're more talented. They have more resources. No. They started in diapers just like you did. And I think that whenever you see success from someone else, don't let that discourage you. Don't get jealous when you're scrolling Facebook, right? Get motivated and go, hey, if they could do it, I could do it too. And one of the greatest lessons I learned from that experience. And then fast forward a year and a half, and I was driving home from giving a speech at a Cutco conference. And my car, a brand new Ford Mustang, was hit head on by a drunk driver at 70 miles an hour, spun off the drunk driver. The car behind me crashed into my door at 70 miles an hour and smashed the car into the left side of my body. And instantaneously, I broke 11 bones, began losing a lot of blood. And that night, I bled to death, and I was clinically dead. I was found dead at the scene. I was dead for 6 minutes without a heartbeat. I was revived on a helicopter, taken to the hospital, spent 6 days in a coma, flatlined twice more, came out of the coma, and was told I would never walk again. I had permanent brain damage, which my wife will vouch for. I do have permanent brain damage. And my body was scarred. You know, I mean, my arm was up in a sling. My ear was almost completely severed. My eye was bandaged. The eye socket was destroyed. They thought I would be blind. And I'll just share one other kind of defining lesson that I think is really crucial right now, and this will set the stage for the rest of our conversation, is that we can't control what happens to us, right? We very often cannot control what happens to us. There are two worlds that we live in. One is the outer world, which we have very little control over. The other is the inner world, which we have full control over, if we choose to, right? Very often, most people don't take ownership or they're not intentional about the inner world, and we let our outer world dictate it. Oh my gosh, there's a pandemic. I'm falling apart. I'm stressed out. I'm unhappy. I'm scared. I'm a mess. Those are natural responses initially to adversity, but ultimately, once those initial responses, just kind of occur, it's our responsibility to stop and go, okay, this is what's happening, right? This is the things I can't change. How am I going to show up every day at my best? How am I going to put myself in a peak physical, mental, emotional, spiritual state every single day so that I bring the best version of myself to the challenges that I'm facing? And for me, when I was told I would never walk again, I decided there's one of two possibilities. Number one, I might never walk again. And if that's the case, I told my parents, I promise mom and dad, I'll be the happiest person you've ever seen in a wheelchair, because I'm in a wheelchair either way, right? We're in a pandemic either way. You can either be the happiest and the most grateful and the most productive and proactive and confident and optimistic you've ever been in the midst of this pandemic, or you can let it destroy you. You can let it ruin you. You can fall apart, right? But that's our choice, is how we respond to our adversity. And I told my parents the second possibility is, mom and dad, I'm going to walk again. I've accepted the worst case scenario, so it has no power over me. I'm not afraid of not walking again. If it is what it is, if that's what happens, that's what happens. I said, but all my energy now doesn't go into my fear. It goes into what I want. I want to walk again. So I'm thinking about that every day, just like you should be thinking about what you want every day. I said, I'm visualizing it every day. I'm creating the emotional experience in my body every day of the ideal outcome. And every day I'm going to therapy, I'm working, I'm praying, I'm doing everything I can to create the ideal outcome. I'm expecting the best, but I'm accepting the rest. I accept all things as they are. I'm at peace with what I can't change, and I'm optimistic about what I can change. And 2 weeks after the crash, the doctors came in and they said, we don't know how to explain this, but Hal, your body is healing so quickly that we're going to let you take your first step today. Actually, it was 3 weeks after the crash. But 3 weeks later, I took my first step, and I believe so much in the mind-body connection, right? Mm-hmm. And we don't do ourselves any favors by living in stress and living in fear and living by dwelling on the things that are out of our control. But we do a lot of good for ourselves when we focus on, think about, dwell on, and act on that which we can control. Accept the outer world and focus on optimizing the inner world. And that's really what we're going to talk about today.
Awesome. And I recall in a prior, I guess you were speaking, we were in Austin together, and you shared the 5 minute rule, I think it is.
Yeah. Yeah.
And how that kind of shapes, like, you can't, like, not completely denying whatever reality of the world decides for you. Give it its space. And then what would you say to that?
Yeah. So the doctors called my parents in the first couple of weeks after my accident, and it was before I had, walked. They still thought I would never walk again. And the doctors called my parents and they said, we believe that Hal is in denial or he is delusional because he's always happy. And they said, that's not normal for a 19-year-old, or I was 20, I guess at the time, a 20-year-old young man who's being told he's never going to walk again to just laugh it off and smile and say everything's okay. They said, he's lost it, right? Like he's out of it. And they said, well, you talk to him and find out how he's really feeling. And so my dad came in really concerned, and he his face, I look over at him, and his face is like, his eyes are welled up, and, his face is red, and he's concerned, and he's Hal, I want to talk to you. And he expressed the doctor's concerns. He said, how are you really feeling? How are you really feeling? He said, are you scared? Are you depressed? Are you anxious? Are you are you angry? These are normal emotions. He said, I know you want to be positive, but it's okay to feel those emotions. How do you really feel? When you're not putting on a positive, attitude for all of us, like at night when you're falling asleep, when the lights are out and you're thinking about what happened and that you might never walk again, how do you really feel? And I said, Dad, I'm not depressed. I'm not scared. I'm not sad. I'm none of those things, because don't you remember I live by the 5-minute rule? And he said, remind me, this is what I learned in my Cutco training. And the 5-minute rule is real simple. It says, when something goes wrong, and wrong's a relative, term, subjective. But he said, when something goes wrong, doesn't go according to plan, it's okay to feel negative, but not for more than 5 minutes. Set your timer for 5 minutes. Give yourself 5 minutes to bitch, moan, complain, cry, punch a pillow, punch a wall, like whatever you got to do. Feel it fully, cuss, yell, scream, whatever, right? And after the timer goes off after 5 minutes, you say 3 very powerful words, which I happen to have written on a cue card right here. Can't change it. And this reminds you that, wait a minute, I can't change what I can't change. So there's not a lot of value in me wishing I could change it, wishing it didn't happen, wishing the past were different, whether it was 5 minutes ago or 5 months or 5 decades ago, right? The idea is that every negative emotion we've ever felt, and this is a big one, at least it was for me, every negative emotion that you have ever felt or I have ever felt that we're feeling now or we could ever feel in the future is self-created by our resistance to our reality. In other words, to the degree that we resist reality, we wish that things were different than they are in this moment. Doesn't mean you can't make them different moving forward, but in this moment, everything is as it is. Your bank account balance right now is exactly as it is. The amount of houses you sold last week and last month, you can't change that. That's exactly as it is. Yet most of our emotional pain comes over something that is out of our control, either because it's in the past or it's just out of our control where we can't do anything about it right now. If you can't change it right now, it's out of your control in this moment. So in this moment, you have 2 choices. You can resist it and go, oh, I'm so upset that this is not the way that I want it to be. Or you can go, I can't change it, so I'm going to accept it. And when you accept something that you can't change, it doesn't mean you're happy about it, right? I'm not happy there's a pandemic. Guys, I'm a keynote speaker. Like, I've lost most of my income. Normally, I'm flying around the country speaking, right? Like, I've lost most of my income, okay? And yeah, I had a few sleepless nights over that. But the point is this. Happiness is an emotion, and sadness or anger or fear, right? We got our positive emotions and our painful emotions. But when we accept life as it is, unconditionally, and we say, can't change it. I can't change what I can't change. I'm going to accept it. I'm going to stop wishing it were different. I'm going to stop focusing on what's out of my control. I'm only going to focus on what's in my control. And in between those positive emotions and those painful emotions is peace. And peace isn't an emotional state. It's a state of being that's emotionally neutral. When you're at peace, you're calm. When I'm in traffic, I used to get frustrated. And then I go, wait a minute, why am I frustrated? I can't change the traffic. So I choose to accept that there's traffic and I find peace. I'm not happy there's traffic, but it's more powerful than happiness. It's that state of being that is rooted. It doesn't change. And when you accept all things that you can't change, you're at peace. And from that place of peace, you can choose the emotion that would best serve you at any moment, right? You need to feel positive, happy, optimistic, good, whatever it is. Accept the things that you can't change and focus on what you can. And again, most of the things in our outer world, they are as they are. The one thing we can control at all times is our inner world. And if you think about it, all we want to do is feel good. That's why we do everything. Everything we do, I want to make more money so I could buy more stuff so I could feel good. Or I want to make more money so that I could have financial security so that I can feel good, right? Everything we do is to feel good. But the problem is that we're waiting on things in our outer world to line up the way that we think they should in order to give ourselves permission to feel good. And that's backwards. right? It's not, well, if this and this happens, then I'll feel great. I'll be happy. Ooh, but if they don't happen, I'm going to be sad, upset, disappointed, scared, depressed, right? No. How about you choose your state of being first, and then you go handle everything else. You choose the inner world, you nurture your inner world first, and then you go deal with your problems and challenges and goals and opportunities, but you do it from a place of peace, a place of optimism, of joy, of gratitude, right? And that's what the Miracle Morning is all about, is it's every morning putting yourself in that state, that peak physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual state, first thing in the morning. And from that place of power, of personal power, if you will, right? Then you go out and you deal with your day, but you bring the best version of yourself to everything that you do. And you maintain an emotional, strength and resilience, and even just that enjoying the moment in the midst of all the chaos.
Man, that's awesome. So maybe touch on a little bit about the what I believe is that structure equals freedom, and having a plan and progress, not perfection, usually leads to a better version of myself when I'm seeking peace and connectivity. Like when I feel like I'm going somewhere, it doesn't have to be meteoric speed, but consistency over time. Yeah. And that's what I think the Miracle Morning stands for me, and helps me align. Can you just touch on maybe savers or some aspect to it?
Yeah. So again, boom, look at that. I made these cards yesterday, which are helpful. So the savers, these are the 6 practices of the Miracle Morning. So a short story here in 2000, if I'm capable of telling such a thing, I'll take the over under on that. But in 2008, when the US economy crashed, I crashed with it. Okay. Right. That was our last recession. And like many Americans, millions of Americans, I lost over half of my income. I lost over half. My income was about $10,000 a month at that time. I was a coach, and ended up being, I was down to like 3,800, I think, after 6 months. So I lost all this income, and I couldn't figure out how to make more money. And I was depressed. I lost my house. My body fat percentage tripled. I was in the worst shape of my life. I was eating crappy food. I would wake up. I was in scarcity mode, fear mode. Wake up, go into the office, work until 9 o'clock at night, not really even getting that much done, just answering emails and being busy. And, and then the day ended, and, I was like, I had a headache. I'd go to bed and just do it over again. And then a series of events led me to a breakthrough, a realization. And I realized that our level of success, and this is actually a quote from Jim Rohn, your level of success will seldom exceed your level of personal development, because success is something you attract by the person that you become. And when I heard that, I realized I'm not dedicating time every day to my personal development, so I'm not becoming the person that I need to be to create the success that I want in my life. And I had this epiphany. I go, what if I created like the most effective, extraordinary personal development ritual in the history of humanity, and I did it every day in order to develop the mindset, the knowledge, the qualities, the skills, the discipline, all the things that I need to succeed? What if I become, every day I dedicate time to becoming a better version of the person that I was when I went to bed the night before? And I woke up or the night before, that afternoon, I Googled best personal development practices. And I Googled like personal development of millionaires and billionaires and CEOs and Olympians and champions and on and on and on. And I kept coming across morning routines and morning rituals, but I would just skip those. I'm like, no, I'm not a morning person. Like, maybe you can relate. I was not a morning person. I was like, no. Show me the success plan that starts at like 7 or 8 a.m. I'm good with that. And I had a list of 6 practices. And these 6 practices, I was trying to figure out which is the best one. I'm not going to do all 6. Like, which is the best 1 or 2 that would create a morning ritual? And the real epiphany was, what if I did all of them? What if I woke up tomorrow an hour earlier, even though I'm not a morning person? Mm-hmm. What if I woke up so I could start my day in that peak physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual state? What if I woke up tomorrow morning and I did the 6 most timeless, proven personal development practices in the history of humanity? I thought that would be the ultimate morning ritual. And I woke up the next morning and I did all 6 of them, and for 10 minutes each. And I was terrible. Like, meditation was one. I didn't know how to meditate, right? And let me run through these with you right now. These are the savers. And by the way, they didn't start as an acronym. That was when I was writing the book and trying to figure out how to make it memorable and so on and so forth. In fact, meditation became silence, and journaling became scribing, because the M and the J would have made the acronym really awkward. So the first S is for silence, and silence is essentially, right, starting your day with meditation, or prayer, or breath work, right? So it doesn't get much easier than starting your day by doing nothing, right? You set your timer for 10 minutes, and I meditate now longer. I meditated this morning for 23 minutes. But there are over 1,400 scientific studies that show the physiological, mental, emotional, and spiritual benefits of meditation, right? And it's not just a woo-woo practice where you're just getting closer to God or whatever higher power you believe in. It's actually having radical benefits to your ability to focus. It's lowering your cortisol levels, right? They've measured your biometrics when you meditate. Your brain waves calm down. You can think clearer. It releases endorphins in your, right? You actually feel happier. You feel better. It lowers your cortisol levels, so it lowers your stress. And all of these things combine for you to be in a peak mental, emotional, and spiritual state first thing in the morning. So when the alarm goes off, don't open your phone and check your email or your news feed and spike your cortisol levels, right? Mm-hmm. No, my phone doesn't go off airplane mode until my miracle morning is done. So it starts with silence, peaceful, purposeful silence. The A in Savers is for affirmations. And this, if in case you roll your eyes and go, affirmations are kind of cheesy. So for me, affirmations have become the most important part of my miracle morning practice. And they started out as the part that I had the least faith in, because affirmations are taught in one of two ways. They've been taught in one of two ways that are really counterproductive for us. Number one, we're taught to lie to ourselves. Just say it until you believe it, right? I am amazing. I am happy. I am wealthy. I am like, lying is never the optimum strategy, because the truth will always prevail. If you tell yourself, if you say, I am blank, but you're not actually whatever that blank is, then now your subconscious calls it, because you're lying. No, you're not. You're not happy right now. You're not wealthy. You're struggling financially, right? You know, and you're inside, you're fighting yourself going, shut up, I'm doing my affirmations, right? So the first strategy that we're taught to lie to yourself is not optimum. The second is we're given this flowery passive language that makes us feel good in the moment, but is counterproductive. So one example, you've probably heard an affirmation, something like this. I am a money magnet. Money flows to me effortlessly and in abundance. And that might make you feel good in the moment, right? If all day long you're afraid about money, but this affirmation tells you it's all going to be okay. Money's magically going to flow into your life like you were a magnet. That's not how money works, right? You've got to create value for the marketplace, and then you'll be compensated with money. So let me teach you three really crucial steps. And if you're taking notes, I'd encourage you to jot these three down. These are worth writing down. These are 3 steps to create affirmations that will program your subconscious mind and direct your conscious behavior to produce results. Because yes, I want to feel good, but I don't want to just feel good and not see measurable improvement, right? I don't want to affirm some sort of financial, goofy affirmation, but actually not see my finances improve. I want results. So for me, affirmations are not about feeling good. That's the side product. It's about creating results. So number 1, affirm, what are you committed to? So the first thing I write in my affirmations is I am committed to, or I am 100% committed to blank. No matter what, there's no other option. So what is the ideal outcome that you are committed to? When I wasn't walking, it was walking again. In 2008, when the economy crashed, I was committed to doubling my income because I had lost over half of it, right? Mm-hmm. And I did it in 2 months. So number 1, what is the ideal outcome that you're committed to? Number 2, why is that meaningful to you, right? We've got to remind ourselves why is this important? What are the benefits, right? Why is that an outcome that I'm committed to? Because I want to provide financial security for me and my family, right? That's an example. And number 3, which specific actions will you take and when that will ensure your outcome? Mm-hmm. So number 1, what is your ideal outcome that you're committed to? Number 2, why is it meaningful to you? And number 3, which specific actions will you take to ensure your outcome? And when will you take them? And so now you're affirming something every day. It's not a lie. It's not rooted in fantasy or magic that things are going to magically get fixed in your life. It is a results-oriented, practical affirmation. You're programming your subconscious to be fully committed to that outcome. You're reminding yourself, you're bringing your heart into it, right? Going from your head to your heart, getting in terms of, why is this so meaningful to me? Like, why am I willing to do whatever it takes? And then you're solidifying the action that's necessary, that you're going to do. And I have that formula in every area of my life. I have it in my business. I have it in my marriage. I have it with my kids. I have it with my health. I have it with my mental and emotional well-being. That formula I follow in every single area of my life. And even sub areas, like I'll have certain projects or goals where I'll also apply that three-step affirmation too. The V in Savers is for visualization. And I'll just share this. The way we've been taught visualization, again, it's missing a big component. We're taught to visualize the ideal outcome, right? Look at your vision board. Look at your vision board, see the finish line, and see it and believe it, and you'll achieve it, or whatever goofy, right? Now, there's value in that. Don't get me wrong. There is value in visualizing the finish line, in visualizing yourself achieving the goal. The value is that it creates desire. It fuels that fire of desire, if you will, right? Mm-hmm. Seeing that, yes, I want it. I feel it. I can see it. That's great. It also increases the belief that it's possible. If there's a goal out there that the idea of the goal scares you, but if every day you start visualizing achieving it, it actually increases the belief that you can do it. You're like, you know what? I've actually seen myself cross the finish line so many times. I actually think I could actually do it now. I actually am starting to believe it. Here's the problem. If you leave it at that, it is counterproductive because you're missing the most important component, and that's visualizing the activity that you must take today that will take you to that long-term vision. So if all you do is visualize the end, you'll believe it so much that you think it's going to happen with or without your effort. You go, man, I've just seen it so many times. I have no doubt in my mind it's going to happen. Somebody might ask, well, what are you doing to make sure it happens? You go, oh, no, I just visualize it every day. It's like, no, there's more than that. So I'll give you an example and the strategy. So when I was training for the ultra marathon, I hated running. And most often, the activities that we need to do to improve areas of our life, usually there's some sort of resistance to the activity. Either we hate it, like I hated running, or you might hate cold calling, or there's just even a low level of fear, of discomfort, like I don't want to get on the phone and call my past customers. That's uncomfortable. So instead, I'll keep myself busy answering emails and doing other things and cleaning my house, and then another day I'll go by and I'll feel kind of crappy that I didn't really do the thing that was most important for me to do. So the way to use visualization is to, every morning, during your miracle morning, visualize yourself engaged in the number one most important activity for you to do that day to move forward in your business, in your life, in your health, whatever area you're visualizing. See the activity. So, for example, I would close my eyes and I'd spend about a minute visualizing myself crossing the Atlantic City Marathon finish line. I actually printed a picture of it on like an 8x10 off of the internet so I could see the actual finish line. And I would look at it, then I'd close my eyes and I would feel what it was going to feel like. And the emotional experience is what we're after here with visualization. So the most important part, though, after that minute of visualizing the finish line being crossed, it was visualizing myself looking at my timer on my phone at 7 a.m., which was when I had it set to run. That was my training. It would go off at 7, and I would visualize picking up my phone, turning off the timer, walking into my bedroom, into my closet, putting on my running clothes, and then heading out the front door. And I would always visualize opening the door, looking out at my sidewalk, and I would imagine smiling. And I would create these positive emotions and even think things like, I'm going to go on a run now. I'm doing something good for my body. I'm overcoming a limitation that I've had my entire life, that I wasn't a runner. And this is going to be a great, great run, great day, right? I would use kind of affirmations. I would visualize, I would feel it, and I'd head out the front door. That was my visualization every single morning. And then guess what happened when the alarm went off at 7 a.m. on my phone? It was automatic. I stood up with a flood of positive emotions. I went into my bedroom, into my closet, got dressed in my running clothes, headed out the front door. When I opened the front door, you could probably guess what happened. I smiled. It was automatic. I was flooded with those same emotions that I created in the morning during my visualization. And I had and that activity that I hated, that there was so much resistance to running. I was compelled. I was excited to head out that front door and down the pavement. And this is what I'm encouraging you. This is how to use visualization in your life. Whatever the areas of your life are that you need to perform at your best in a peak state, use visualization in the morning to rehearse that and see yourself and feel it before it happens, so that when it's game time, when it's time to pick up the phone, right? Call your past customers, time to get on the pavement, time to engage with your family. Like on the weekends, I visualize engaging with my wife and my kids with like positivity and energy and love. And I create that experience in my life. I imagine seeing my family and being flooded with positive emotions to spill over onto them. And then guess what happens when I see my family, right? It's automatic because I rehearsed it in the morning. The same way that professional athletes visualize making the perfect shot, that perfect swing. So when they get out on the court or the course, they've already been there in their mind and their body and their emotions, and it's automatic to go there in real time. So that's half of the savers, and I'll go through the rest of them, but I just wanted to pause in case you had any questions, Rick, or thoughts.
I think you're rolling, man. You're awesome. And so just continue. Just,
Yeah.
I do want to migrate into the new book and talk a little bit about, the equation piece of it and what happened to compel you to write another book. So just save some space for that. Yeah. But yeah.
These last three are the short ones. Those first three were the long ones. So these last three are quick. So again, remember, these are the savers, SAVERS. We covered silence, affirmations, visualization. There's the E, the R, and the S. The E is for exercise. Not rocket science. Don't need to spend a lot of time telling you how to exercise. But what I am going to encourage you to do is consider how important it is to exercise first thing in the morning, during that first hour. The reason is in general, it wakes up your entire body. It gives you more energy to sustain throughout the day. It also releases endorphins. It also gets blood and oxygen flowing through not only your body, but through your brain. So you think clearer. You have better decision-making ability, so on and so forth, more clarity. So exercising first thing in the morning, and in the Miracle Morning book, there's an entire chapter called the 6-Minute Miracle Morning, which shows you this is a scalable practice. You could do the savers in any order. You might exercise. Some people go, I have to exercise first, or I fall asleep. They go, if I try to meditate first, I just fall back asleep wherever I'm meditating. Couch, bed, doesn't matter. So you can put the E first, right? Doesn't matter. And you can do it anywhere from a minute of exercise, a minute of jumping jacks. It will get your heart rate going. You'll be breathing heavy. You're awake, right? So it doesn't have to be going to the gym for an hour, right? But even just that small amount of moving your body first thing in the morning. I do an app on my phone called 7-Minute Workout. It's a 7-minute full body workout. There's a free app on the phone. Highly recommend it. You can go to YouTube, do a yoga routine, whatever you want. The R in savers is for reading. We're all one book away from what we want to change in our lives or what we want to improve. And I'm gonna bring back the 2008 story. So the economy had crashed. I'm at my lowest point. I start this morning ritual. I was figuring it out as I went along, but I was the first day that I did it, I felt so inspired. My depression went away because I was hopeful. And at the end of that hour, I went, if I start every day like this, feeling this clear and confident and back to my old, in this case, pre-pandemic self, but then it was the pre-recession self, right? It's only a matter of time before my outer world reflects this inner world that I am nurturing and generating every day during my Miracle Morning. So my depression was gone in a matter of days. Within 2 months, I more than doubled my income. I went from under $4,000 a month to over $12,000 a month, the highest income at the time. I was 26, I think, I had ever earned. And my physical health, I went from being in the worst shape of my life to committing to run that 52-mile ultra marathon. Now, here's how I doubled my income. Okay, so I don't want to leave that.
Sure.
It was really simple. These practices that we're talking about allowed me to be in a peak state, override my fear that I was living with because of my declining economic, situation. And so all these practices allowed me to start the day in a peak physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual state. And specifically the reading. I chose a book that was to solve my biggest problem, which is I was a coach. I had lost over half of my clients. The book was called Book Yourself Solid by Michael Port. Now, your book, based on your industry in real estate, would probably be different, right? It might even be revisiting a book that you've already read in the past, right? Like The Millionaire Real Estate Agent, right? That sort of thing. But for me, it was on getting clients. So all I did is I took that clarity, that confidence that I gained in the morning, and I read the book, Book Yourself Solid, and I took the strategies and I applied them every single day. And it's not rocket science. You take a proven formula, you apply it every single day while you're in a peak state, and you get results. And I more than doubled my coaching client load in those 2 months. And I went to my wife and I said, sweetheart, this morning ritual feels like a miracle. I'm running for the first time in my life. Our income's the highest it's ever been. It's only 2 months of doing this morning thing. And she goes, a miracle? It's your miracle morning. I go, yeah, I love that. It's my miracle morning. So I started writing my schedule as Miracle Morning, never knowing it was going to be a book. But then I started teaching it to other people. It caught on. They loved it. They got great results. And, the rest is history, as they say. The final S in Savers is for scribing. Scribing is a fancy word for writing or journaling, but I needed an S for the acronym. But here's the point is that when you put pen to paper and you get out of your head and onto paper, it forces you to clarify your thinking. It forces you to articulate the myriad of thoughts that are bouncing around in your head like a pinball. So when you choose what you're going to write about, scribe about, you are then directing your attention to the tip of that pen, right? Now you can do it on your computer or in your phone. I find there's a benefit, and I'm not going to go into the science behind it, but there's a science behind writing by hand and what that does for your brain versus typing on a computer. There's a benefit to writing by hand, but either one is a benefit. But for me every day, here's what I jot down. The 3 things that I'm grateful for and the 3 most important priorities for the day. So every day, and I use, there's an app called 5-Minute Journal, and I use the physical version of that. But if you want to journal on your phone, there's an app. And every day you write down 3 things you're grateful for. So you start the day by realizing, I already have everything that I need to be the happiest I could ever be. Think about that. You already have everything that you need right now in the midst of this pandemic to be the happiest that you could ever be. It's simply up to you to be present to that in every moment. Happiness is not about your outer world getting different or better or changing. The outer world always goes up and down, and it's all over the place. It's about your inner world. It's about you choosing that I'm going to focus on what I have to feel good about, to be grateful for, to be excited about. I'm going to focus on the positive changes that I can make in my life. I'm going to choose to optimize my inner world so I can be in a peak state all the time. And for me, it starts with focusing on what I already have in my life to feel good about, to be grateful for. And then I go back once a week, I go back and read over my journal entries, and I just smile and smile and smile and smile, feeling great about those things. And the second thing I write down is the top 1 to 3 commitments that I will follow through with that day that'll move me forward in my life or business. And here's why. We all have, probably dozens of things on our to-do list. I've got like hundreds because it just builds up and builds up and builds up, right? And they just get pushed over, and I've got an app for my to-do list. But we've got all these things, and most often we tend to gravitate towards the easiest things to do with the least fear attached to them, the least consequences. So we'll check emails, we'll just stay busy. So for me, I do a gut check every morning, and I look at my to-do list, go, okay, there's like 25 things that I have to do today. What are the top 1 to 3 in order that are the most important, that will make the biggest impact, move the needle, so to speak, in my business or in my life? And they're most often the most uncomfortable things. So I do the most uncomfortable first, and then the rest are easier and easier and easier as the day goes on. But it ensures I get everything done that really needs to get done, and don't just keep myself busy. And the last thing I'll say on this is Robert Kiyosaki, who's one of my favorite authors. He wrote Rich Dad, Poor Dad. You're probably familiar with Robert. Robert read The Miracle Morning 3 times at least. He told me he's read it 3 times. He does it every day. And he interviewed me on Rich Dad Radio. And he said, Hal, before The Miracle Morning, every successful person on the planet, he said, to my knowledge, did at least one of the savers and swears by it to their success. They attribute their success to that practice. Some of them they meditate every day, and that's how they get clarity, and they've, created these great results. Some of them read every day or exercise. Some maybe do 1 or 2, maybe 3 of the savers. But he said, I had never heard of anyone that did all 6 of those best practices every day. He goes, that's why I believe you named the Miracle Morning appropriately. Because if you do one of those, it'll change your life. But when you do all 6, it will create miracles in ways that you never imagined. And it will do that faster than you ever thought possible. And when he said that, I thought I couldn't have said it better, because that's what happened for me and for millions of people that have read the book. Right? They apply the Miracle Morning. They might start out depressed, scared, in debt, just like I was. And within a few days, you feel like a different person. And the negative you is starting to fade to the distance. And this new, positive, empowered, unstoppable version of you is coming to the surface. And then you start to see the results in your life reflect who you're showing up as each and every day.
Man, that's awesome. So that's a perfect segue to the new book, The Miracle Equation, in terms of what's involved. And could maybe start with what was the impact of facing death or the potential for life-threatening illness, and how that impacted this book? Because I believe that landed right in front of the publishing of this one. Am I correct?
Yeah. So yeah, absolutely. It did. Little over 3 years ago, I was diagnosed with a very rare and aggressive form of cancer, acute lymphoblastic leukemia. And then they discovered I had a cellular mutation, which made it worse. And I was given a 10% chance, as good as 30% chance of surviving. So 10 to 30%, which if you're a pessimist, right, that's 70 to 90% chance that I was going to die. And again, I'm a dad. I mean, nobody wants to die, but especially if you have kids, like that thought of leaving your kids. My daughter was 7, my son was 4, and I'm being told that I'm probably going to die, like 70 to 90% chance of that. And the day I was diagnosed, a couple things. Number one, I told my wife, she was distraught, and I was really at peace with it, because honestly, I practice what I preach, and the 5-minute rule, right? I just went, okay, I can't change that I have cancer. There's no point in feeling sorry for myself, in getting depressed or living in fear. Like, that doesn't serve me. So I'm going to accept that I have cancer. I'm not happy about it, but I'm at peace with it. And so then when you're at peace, remember, when you're at peace is emotionally neutral. Then you can choose the emotions that would best serve you. And I know that the body responds to the mind. And if you live in fear, you create stress, and that kills your body. It literally kills you. And so I decided I would live in joy and optimism and hope. And I told my wife, I said, sweetheart, I know this is hard, and I'm so sorry that I was really sorry that she was going to have to go through this. I was like, I'll do what I need to do. But I told her, I said, sweetheart, I promise you, I will be the happiest and the most grateful I have ever been while I endure what I would imagine is the most difficult time of my life. And I'm sorry that you have to be part of this, right? But of your life as well. And remember, it's the same decision I made when I was in the hospital 20 years ago, right? It was, I will be the happiest and most grateful person while I endure the most difficult time in my life. And consider that they're not mutually exclusive, right? We always put the outer world, we give the outer world permission to tell us how to feel. Right? If things are going good in my business, I'll feel good. No. How about you choose today, right now? And it might feel fake at first. That's what the Miracle Morning is going to help you do, is condition this. Because at first you just say it, but you don't believe it. But why don't you just draw your line in the sand and go, you know what? I'm going to be the happiest and most grateful. And you could use any other adjective, optimistic, excited, whatever, that I've ever been right now from this point forward, while I go through the most difficult time in my life. It's not going to change what I'm choosing on the inside. The second decision that I made is to apply the miracle equation. And I told my wife, I said, sweetheart, do you remember the miracle equation, that thing that you've heard me give like speeches about? And I talk about it on like conference calls and stuff. And she's like, yeah, vaguely. I've overheard you use the term before. So the miracle equation I developed when I was 20 years old, long before the Miracle Morning. And when I was in sales, I was selling Cutco, and I was trying to break a company record in a limited amount of time, to the point where doing so would have felt like a miracle. And this was after my car accident. And so I thought, all right, what would I have to do to break this record? And I reverse engineered it by asking the opposite question. I thought, well, what would prevent me from reaching this goal? And I thought there's really two things that stop us from reaching any goal or even attempting a goal in the beginning. Number one is the lack of faith. We don't have faith that we can achieve the goal, so we don't try to achieve goals we don't believe we can achieve, right? We rarely do we do that. When was the last time that you went, I don't really think I can hit that goal, so I'm going to give it everything I have? No, because we view that as a waste of time. Now, you're going to learn in a second, it's not a waste of time. It's the best thing you can do. So the first thing that could prevent us from reaching a goal is we don't have the faith that we can reach that goal. So I decided I've got to maintain unwavering faith that I can reach this goal. Unwavering. I've got to keep, and how did I made that very practical with a simple mantra that I wrote down. I called it my miracle mantra. And it was I already it's part of the formula that I really shared earlier. I am committed to selling blank. So whatever your ideal outcome is, right? I am committed to blank. No matter what, there is no other option. So that was my unwavering faith, as I was committed to achieve that goal and let me add in a caveat. I am committed to giving it everything I have to blank, no matter what, there's no other option, because I couldn't commit to achieving the goal because it wasn't fully in my control, right? Sometimes customers buy, sometimes they don't, right? But I could commit to giving it everything I had, regardless of my results. And you might write that in there too. Sorry, I keep adding pieces. I am committed to giving it everything I have to achieve this goal, regardless of my results. No matter what, there's no other option. Because what happens is if our results aren't what we want them to be along the way, we tend to get discouraged and throw in the towel. Our faith goes out the window. The second decision that I explored is I thought, well, what's the other thing that could stop me from reaching my goal? If I'm maintaining faith that I could do it, what would be the other thing that could stop me? I go, well, if I stop putting forth the effort, right? Pretty simple. Those are the two components to achieving any goal: unwavering faith and committing to put forth extraordinary effort. Do whatever it takes. So I decided, okay, those are my two decisions. I will maintain unwavering faith every moment during this sales period, and I will put forth extraordinary effort regardless of my results along the way, no matter what, until the last possible moment. I went out, by the way, this was a 10-day sales period. I was trying to break the record. I went out in my first 7 days, and I was less than halfway to the goal. And I'll give you the exact numbers. I was trying to sell $20,000 of Cutco kitchen knives in 10 days, which had never been done before. And in 50 some years of the company being around. So I was terrified. But I decided, here's the lesson. I want to embed a quick lesson for you. Something that I learned from my mentor, Dan Cassetta, who learned it from his mentor, Jim Rohn, is that the purpose of a goal, the real purpose of a goal, the highest purpose of a goal, is not to hit the goal. Most of us, that's counterintuitive. You think, well, no, I set a goal because I want to hit the goal. And if I don't hit the goal, I feel like a failure, which is why if I'm not on track for the goal, I stop trying, because it doesn't look like I'm going to hit it anyway. So why keep trying? Because we think in black and white terms that the purpose of a goal is to hit it. And if you don't hit it, you're a failure. And there's all sorts of negative connotations that we attach to the word failure, right? I don't want to be a failure. I don't want my goals to be, I don't want this attempt to be a failure. So, but when you realize that the purpose of a goal isn't to hit it, now that's an objective, sure. But the highest purpose for you to set a goal and maintain unwavering faith that you can hit it and put forth extraordinary effort until the last possible moment, regardless of your results, is who you become in that process. Because only the growth you experience lasts forever. The money, if you hit the goal, it gets spent, right? The accolades fade. The trophies get dusty, right? Only the growth you experience and who you become by giving it everything you have until the last possible moment, that stays with you forever, because you become a different version of yourself. And even if you don't hit the first goal that you go for, but you apply the new version of you that has more resiliency, a higher level of commitment, more dedication, more discipline, right? Better habits, all those things you developed when you attempted to hit the first goal. You now take those attributes with you into the next goal. And maybe you hit that goal, maybe you don't. But whether or not you hit the goal, once again, it's inconsequential to the growth. And the thing is, every time you attempt a bigger goal or just the next goal, you are more qualified and more capable of achieving that goal if you live by those two decisions: unwavering faith and extraordinary effort. And to wrap the story up, I went out there in the first 7 days and I needed to sell $2,000 a day in 10 days to be at my $20,000 goal. I only sold $7,000 in those first 7 days, which meant I was $13,000 away and I had 3 days left. Now think about this. Put yourself in my shoes. If I wouldn't have made the two decisions, unwavering faith and extraordinary effort, and by the way, they're not one-time decisions. I committed to make them every day. Every time I felt fear, I decided that I would read my miracle mantra. And I go, oh my gosh, I'm afraid. I'm not going to reach the goal. I only have 3 days left. There's no way. And then I go, no, shut up. Negative thinking. I'd pull out my mantra and go, I am committed to giving it everything I have to sell $20,000 in 10 days, regardless of my results. No matter what, there's no other option. I would read it over and over and over and over and over again with more enthusiasm and more conviction and more belief. And that's how I overrode fear with faith. And unwavering faith, every time I read that mantra, it sunk deeper and deeper and deeper into my subconscious to where I got to a point where I'm like, I'm committed. Like I had to think about it less and less. It just became part of who I was. So with only 3 days left and having sold $7,000 in 7 days, and now I have to sell $13,000 in 3 days, which is, that's like next to impossible, right? I maintained unwavering faith and extraordinary effort. I sold $10,000 in the next 3 days. I was at $17,000. I woke up early the next morning, scheduled an early morning appointment, drove to this lady's house, and somehow sold her $3,000 on the last appointment and finished at $20,078. And here's the point. When that started, I thought I might have been lucky, right? I didn't know. But then I started studying the world's most successful people, and I realized that these are the two decisions that every successful person makes, not one time in their lives, but over and over and over and over. Michael Jordan, my favorite basketball player of all time. This is the decision he made before every game, right? When other players were like, oh, I missed 3 shots in a row, tonight's an off night, Michael Jordan had unwavering faith that he could make every shot that he ever took. He could miss 7 shots in a row. It didn't change that look in his eye, the way he stuck his tongue out, right? The way he asked for the ball. Even though he missed 7 shots in a row, he had unwavering faith he'd make the 8th one. And he shot, and if he missed it, his faith didn't waver. And that's a lesson for us to learn. You control your inner world. You don't control your outer world. No one makes every shot they take. No one closes every deal that they sit down with. No one reaches every goal that they set. But you and I have the choice to approach life and business and every goal we ever set, every dream that we have, by making the two decisions of the miracle equation, unwavering faith that we can and will achieve everything. I had unwavering faith I would walk again, and I did. I put forth extraordinary effort to walk again, and I did. And then to beat cancer, right? All of these things that seemed improbable, those two decisions are available to all of us. And they're what separates the majority of society who settles for a lot less than they really want and a lot less than they're capable of. And those of us who commit to those two decisions to maintain unwavering faith, put forth extraordinary effort for as long as it takes, no matter what our results are along the way, to achieve our goals. And those are our choices that we get to make. And I want to close out by saying this. The only variable when you live by the miracle equation is timing. Like when the Miracle Morning book came out, I wanted to sell 1 million copies of the first year. I sold 13,000. I mean, I was 987,000 copies short. So I applied the miracle equation again the second year. And by the way, I mean, this was doing hundreds of podcast interviews and dozens of TV. Like I wasn't just resting on them. I was working my butt off. Year 2, I applied the miracle equation. I only sold like 17,000 copies or 30,000 copies. I'm still 980,000 or 70,000 copies short, right? The only variable, though, when you apply the miracle equation is timing. If you keep applying it, you eventually get there. It took 6 years to sell 1 million copies of the Miracle Morning. And here's the lesson in that. When you finally get to the point in your life or in your business that you've been working so hard for so long, you almost never wish it would have happened any sooner. Instead, you look back in hindsight and you go, oh, I was supposed to go through that pandemic. I was supposed to go through those scary times. That was all part of the growth. That was all part of me becoming the person that I needed to be to arrive at this moment. and the timing is always perfect. So wherever you are right now, be at peace with where you are while you wake up every day. Dedicate time first thing in the morning to optimizing your mindset, your inner world, so that you can be at your best. Maintain 2 decisions: unwavering faith, putting forth extraordinary effort every day to move in the direction of your biggest goals and dreams. And the only variable is timing, because when you get there, and you will get there, the timing is always perfect.
Man, it's beautifully stated. And you said in the book too that sometimes that unending or unwavering faith, you just have to get into action, and it takes daily focus. I mean, it's some days you don't have the same level of faith, but by practicing, I think eventually you hit perfect. I love that timing is the last of the variables. And if you do the right thing long enough, it's inevitable. Thank you for investing time with us today, Hal. You're just an amazing, thoughtful human being. And I think you are impacting humanity one person at a time, one conversation at a time. And I would just challenge our folks to think that way every day, because we have valid, super important conversations with people that are life-changing in the work that we get to do. What if our collective efforts truly do elevate the consciousness of humanity one conversation at a time? Don't stop dreaming. Put the miracle morning to work for you, and apply unwavering faith and extraordinary effort, and then just play it out. It's not if, it's when, and who you become is more important. I love that as well. It's the process. I know you, like me, we've achieved things, and honestly, the achievement part's kind of almost overrated. It's in and out, and it's done. And then you're like, okay, but the process defines you. So stay safe, stay strong, and appreciate everybody for coming today and enjoying our time with Hal. Thanks again, Hal.
Thank you, Rick. Thanks, everybody. It was such an honor to talk to you today.
Thank you, brother. Have a good one.